Ladies and gentlemen, attending the 2018 Geneva Summit for Human Rights and Democracy, fighters for freedom and human rights from all over the world, distinguished guests, and participants of the summit, non-government organizations. I would like to start by conveying special thanks to my sponsors from the United Nations Watch, who have brought me here today. Everyone's asking one question. Why did I become anti-Castro? Following my ideals, why am I willing to give up my life to defend representative democracy? And why am I right to denounce every day the cruelty of the political system that I face? These questions can be answered from my own social and political background, because I'm the son of two warriors who fought against the tyranny of Batista, my father, Guillermo Fariñas, who has already passed away, and my mother, Alicia Hernández Cabeza. Both of them fought against the same tyranny that Fidel Castro and his followers from the 26th of July movement had once fought against. My parents joined the revolutionary movement and fought on different fronts in favor of Castro. My father even fought in the Belgian Congo alongside Che Guevara in '65. And my mother was an international nurse in Algeria in 1973. Thus, the person speaking to you here today is a so-called new man, but a democrat and not an autocrat. I was a naive and convinced Castrist until April 1980. Then, when I was in the military as a pre-cadet, I was mobilized to Havana to stabilize the country. Because some 3 million Cubans wanted to flee the hell that my homeland had become. The Embassy of Peru in Havana granted diplomatic protection to people, eventually allowing some 130,000 Cubans to leave the country through the port of Mariel. I stood watch over a packed Peruvian embassy, but even with my provincial mindset, I asked myself, with fear of being caught, what is going on in Cuba that so many people want to go to a foreign and unknown country? To be honest, for months I had been incapable of asking myself that question because I was terrified of the obvious response. I was afraid that one of my fellow soldiers would guess what I was thinking. Those doubts, even though very internal and secret, were my first acts of dissidence, for I remind you, I was just 18 years old. My second act of dissidence, which was also secret, took place during a war between the jungle and the bedsheets of Angola. There I observed how the villages of Angolan peasants were being raided by the anti-guerrilla Cuban troops of the Fuente Olivo. There I saw death caused by my peers as something necessary. I saw how men were the murderers of their fellow men. I witnessed the fiercest form of hatred I had ever seen in my life. Although my task in Angola did not involve killing people, I had to blow up bridges, I was part of the barbarism that communism brought to these places. Now, every time that I talk to an Angolan staying in my country, I apologize for what we Cubans did there. I have to make something clear. The Cubans who dared to defy orders in Angola, considering them to be inhuman, were summarily executed, and their families were told that they had fallen in combat. It was my third dissident act that turned me into the anti-communist that I am today. Paradoxically, this happened at a Russian military academy in the Russian city of Tambov, where I was living alongside the inhabitants of the region. There I saw the cruelty of communism close up. I learned about the execution of the family of Tsar Nicholas II, including the children and the women. I read Animal Farm. I heard about the women who were raped and about entire families being sent to gulags. From my father was told about my disappointment, and I was surprised to find out that my father also was disappointed politically. He asked me to study, so I got a degree in psychology. in this. And I didn't leave. I had been presented before with an award in Angola, and that's why they didn't kick me out of the university, because otherwise I would have been. I am known in the media now for my 25 hunger strikes, above all. In one of the hunger strikes, we have not, in some of them, we haven't been successful. In others, we were successful. But many prisoners were able to leave because of our hunger strikes. By carrying out a hunger strike, I defied the experienced and sophisticated repression of the dictatorship. I am encouraging Cubans to fight. They have used different repressive methods against me in the 30 years that I've been fighting. And they've been fighting against the ideas of my democratic brothers. They've tried to paint me as a despicable whistleblower of my fellow countrymen's democratic ideals. When they realized that this wasn't possible, they tried to jail me, which they've done on 3 occasions. My repressors saw that each attention was only strengthening my resolve, so they discouraged me. And they've set people to attack me and discourage me. The repression against me right now is focused on trying to delegitimize me nationally, internationally. And for that purpose, they flooded the social media with false information, hoping that my struggle and what Cubans like me have done will not succeed historically. Please, don't be deceived by the supposed changes in my country. After the death of Castro, there will be the departure of his brother Raúl as president. But in Cuba, people are not free to choose their president, and they are further away from having the choice between different political options. So from this podium, I therefore ask you to show solidarity with the Cuban people, because international denunciation and pressure are what will make things change there, together with our fight to achieve freedom and representative democracy. We must consider our fight. And we have hundreds of political prisons, more than 118. The people in my country have an autocratic mentality in their negotiations. And that people do not think of the well-being of the citizens, they only think about control, and they require complicity. And therefore, we have to fight internationally, not only nationally. So think about Cuba, please. And think about Venezuela above all. Martí said, our homeland is humanity. Many people say that the devil is in Venezuela, but his head is in Cuba. We must recognize that Luis Armado, who spoke today, has done a great work, and we must recognize what he has done. He has been able to put above his own ideas the need for democratic change. And we are fighting a war in Latin America, and we must also fight in the Mideast. We must recognize political integrity. We must not cave in to dictatorships, because the freedom of Cuba will require the freedom of Venezuela as well. Many Democratic friends have asked, how is it that I have the strength and the courage to continue fighting despite what's happening? And I answer, it comes from my love for Cuba and love for democracy. I am fighting to free humanity and people, and this will only end when I die. This is an ongoing struggle. I want to see Cuba free and democratic, And this idea inspires me on a day-to-day basis to continue my struggle. Thank you.